Hey everyone, I'm going to give a quick primer here on A Billion Suns, a game by Mike Hutchinson, which you may know from such games as Gaslands. If you haven't heard of Gaslands, check it out. This game is amazing. But we're here to talk about A Billion Suns. This is a game that's coming out in early 2021. Right now it's in a kind of a beta gamma test phase. That's going through. So some of the things I may talk about may change by the time this game comes out for real, but I think there's enough in here to kind of whet your appetite and get you kind of introduced to some of the core concepts of the game, and you can see if you like it. I'm just going to read the description right here, what A Billion Suns is, written by Mike himself. A Billion Suns is a tabletop science fiction miniatures wargame of interstellar combat for 2 to 4 players. Each player commands a fleet of mighty battleships, sleek destroyers, and agile fighters as they join a mad gold rush to claim the new frontier of humanity's conquest of the stars. So A Billion Suns, what is it exactly? It's everything that was said in there, plus some more interesting things. Really, it's a spaceship combat game that is also very much a resource management game. I've only played a couple of games of this, but the resource management aspect of it is crucial to figuring out if you won or not. So the way you determine in this game, so basically you and your opponent are like CEOs of different corporations vying to get certain jobs out there. It's like gig economy in space. And so you're trying to maybe capture some cargo, or maybe you're scanning civilian ships for pirates, and you're basically trying to do it at the least cost possible so the boardroom doesn't fire you. But it's much more than that. So in A Billion Suns, you're 2 or up to 4 CEOs basically fighting over the same board for these resources. So when I say resource management, basically the money you spend to purchase your ships to complete the missions, you get back from completing those missions. So the way you win the game is by actually trying to end the game in positive credits, universal credits in this game, and have more than your opponent. That's like a major victory. If you can have positive credits at the end of the game and you've got more than all your opponents, that's a win. The other way to kind of win is to maybe you're in the negative, but you know what? You did better than the others. So the board's going to let you continue, but you've been put on notice, is kind of the way it's described. So that's kind of how you win this game. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to play out a little scenario. This is not anything special. This is just kind of demonstrate some of the key features of the game, and let you understand what's going on. So each CEO is going to get one of these command helms. And this command helm board is basically going to allow you to determine what you're going to do. Well, it's going to help you determine what you do on each phase. There's some really interesting components and aspects of this CEO helm board. Basically, we're gonna do a little demo here. So for this demo, we're going to play a very small game. So A Billion Suns has a scale aspect to it, where you determine the scale of your game. And basically the scale and the number of players determines how many credits are up for grabs, and ultimately how many and how big a ship you're going to bring. Because there's not a lot of money for grabs, you're probably not going to send in a battleship to do the job that maybe a gunship and some fighters can do. So for this demo, we're going to do a scale 1 game, which is the absolute bare minimum you can do. It basically scales from 1 to 10, but I think if you wanted to, you could push it further. The way the game is set up, that number is kind of arbitrary. You can play a 50 scale game if you've got the room and the ships to do it. But generally, I think most players are going to be within that that 1 to 10 realm. So we're going to play a scale 1 game here, which is the bare minimum. A scale 1 game, that number is important. There's a lot of different factors that use that number, and that's a key thing you'll see repeated throughout the rules of this game, where there are certain stats that affect more than one thing. So those numbers are important. So for scale 1, the first thing that does is it tells us how many command tokens we get to assign to our command helm. So at a scale 1 game, we get 4 command tokens. So each of these CEOs are going to get 4 command tokens. The cool thing about this right now is when you assign these command tokens, you do it in secret. So nobody knows what you're spending your tokens on. They kind of guess maybe based on the board state, but nobody really knows. So for the sake of argument, because I'm here by myself, we're just going to assign these and just to show you. So we've got a couple different zones on our command helm. We've got a cool little area that you can put your corp name if you're going to make a corporation. You've got a place for some credits. You start at 0. And then we have 3 boxes on here. Seize initiative, which is the first one. This allows you to attempt to use better dice to roll off to gain the choice to be first or second player. Jump in allows you to place jump points, which allow you to bring in ships and battle groups. And the last one is tactical, which is kind of your during the turn, oh man, I need to go faster, or I need some more defense. These are kind of tokens that allow you to adapt as the game plays out during the turn. So just for the first turn, I'm going to call this side blue team, and this is red team. So blue CEO, red CEO. Pepsi and Coke, I guess. Here we go. So Pepsi side, blue side. We're going to start off. We're going to do, let's do 2 in jump and 2 in the tactical. That's going to be his starting strategy. Oh, we didn't even put anything out. What is our strategy? So for this game, we're simply going to be going after this ComSat, which is basically a satellite. Before the game, you're going to draw missions. Kind of got ahead of myself here. All you need is a sweet deck of cards. Basically, you're going to take a deck of cards, you're going to divide it into suits and face cards, and before a game, you're going to shuffle up those face cards, and you're going to draw 3 until you get 3 different suits of face cards. And there's a chart in the rule book that tells you what scenarios you actually drew. Once you have those, each suit of scenarios has a different way of scoring. So there's cards that you're going to draw to gain credits to earn your money back for what you paid for the ships. This is just a deck that I had made, basically numbered 1, 2. In this case, it would be 1. You use as many cards as you have. I'm blanking here. As you have scale. There we go. So the scale 1 game, we're only gonna have 1 card. Not very interesting, but for the purposes of the demo, I think it'll work. So basically, there's 1 credit up for grabs here. So anyway, so our mission is this ComSat. We need to hack this ComSat. If somebody can end the turn with this ComSat hacked, they're going to get the card off of the credit deck and score that. It's very simple. This is just a demo. There are missions that have ComSats. There's many more of them. It's multiple turns of scoring. This is just purely for explanations. So back to the board. So seeing this is the mission, he says, okay, I'm going to put 2 in jump and 2 in tactical. Okay, we'll go over to Team Coke over here. So the CEO for Team Coke here, I'll turn these around so you can kind of read them. She's gonna say, you know what, I think I want to do this. I think I'm going to put 3 in jump and I'm going to put 1 in tactical here. So we got a little bit of different styles of play. So after they've been aside, both players reveal, and now you get to see how your opponent has dedicated their command points. So the very first thing we do is figure out who has initiative. Nobody put any command tokens in initiative, so basically both players roll a d12, and whoever rolls the lowest is going to be the CEO with initiative. In this game, all rolls, you're looking for the lowest number. For veteran war gamers, that may be a little weird because you're usually trying to get high numbers, but when you play it, the way the system works, it makes a lot of sense, and it's real easy to figure out that you want low numbers. It's not a big jump, and you'll see how that plays out. So we'll say, let's just pretend both players roll D12, and Team Pepsi over here, Pepsi CEO, wins initiative and decides that they want to go first. So blue team over here, the first thing he's going to do, because now that we're out of the initiative phase, we go to the jump phase. So in the jump phase, he's going to spend one of his command tokens here to place his jump point. Now, at the time of this recording of this game, there are no rules about distances or how close. The only rule really is you can't put things on top of each other, but there's basically no distance requirements. But just for the sake of this, I'm just going to say, you know, he wants to jump in right here. So he's going to put his point right there. So he's done. So it goes over to Coke. So Coke's going to go, okay, I'm going to spend one of my jump points, and she's going to take the red. And for sake of argument, you know, she could put it right here. There's nothing saying you can't do that, but we'll just say she's going to go right there. She's going to go on the opposite side. Now play goes back to Team Pepsi. Pepsi has one other jump point. They're going to spend their jump point, and they're actually going to bring in a battle group. Now, battle group is 1 to 5 ships of the same ship type. That's considered a battle group. So when you're activating battle groups of ships. It's not to say you can't have 2 battle groups of the same number of ships, but there is a maximum size limit per activation. So you can't just have a giant ball of one type of ship of, you know, 10, 20 ships in one activation. They all move and all attack. So it's broken down into smaller bits. So Team Pepsi is like, okay, let's bring in 2 gunships. Now, gunships are kind of the smallest of the non-fighter class ships. And gunships, they have a cost associated with them, which is 3 universal credits. So in order for Pepsi to bring in 2 gunships, he's got to spend 6 credits on these 2 ships. So he's going to go into the negatives here. So I'm going to put a little die to mark that he's in the hole for 6 credits. So this is where kind of the strategy plays in. You see what the missions are. You see how much money is up for grabs. And you have to make a balanced judgment on how many credits you're going to commit to try and complete these missions, because ultimately, again, you want to end up in the positive. So when you bring in the gunships, there's some rules about how close they need to be to the jump point when you bring them in. So ships all have the same stat line setup. So every ship has a thrust value, which tells you how far it moves in the movement phase. All ships have a mass value, which is kind of like the scale number. It's used in multiple things, but generally smaller ships have small mass, large ships have big mass, and those play into different effects. They all have a silhouette value, which determines how hard they are to hit and also how many hit points they have. Certain ships also have a shield value, which allows you to block incoming hits. And they also have different weapon systems that they bring. There's 2 different weapon systems. There's primary weapons and auxiliary weapons. The difference between the 2 types are primary weapons have a 45-degree arc off the center of your ship, which is used to determine range and area for a appropriate target. And then there's auxiliary weapons, which are basically have a 180-degree sweep from the center point that they can attack. And auxiliary weapons generally have less punch than primary weapons in general. There are some of the smaller ships like the gunship that's not really the case. But the advantage to auxiliary weapons, besides the larger firing arc, is the fact that they can split their shots up to attack multiple different battle groups. And auxiliary weapons also get to fire in your opponent's turn as well. So If you set it up right, if you can position your ships well, you actually can probably fire them twice. So there's a little bit of game about dodging, opponent's auxiliary firing arcs so you don't take shots on your own turn, which is pretty interesting. So back to jumping in this battle group of gunships. They have a mass of 1, and whenever you bring in a ship, again at the time of this recording, it is 6 inches minus your mass. So these 2 ships can come in 5 inches from the center point of this jump point. So I'm actually going to measure out here and measure to the center. I've got a little stick under these to denote the center. And then coherency for a battle group is 3 inches. As long as you're within 3 inches of another ship, you're in coherency. If you're outside of that, then your unit starts taking damage for being too far spread apart. So we are now jumped in. So play goes back to the Coke player, Coke Corporation. Coke Corporation, she's going to spend her jump in token. So this is where it gets interesting, because now she understands, okay, Pepsi is gambling 6 credits on this, and now they have a choice. Does she want to bring in 6 credits as well, or maybe let's bring in 5. Let's see if maybe I can do it for 1 less, and then at the end of the game, maybe that's what gets me the win. I don't know, whatever the situation may be. So first thing she's going to do is, she spent that jump point. She's going to jump in a gunship as well. So we're going to spend 3 credits on this jump ship. So we'll spend 3. We'll put in the credits, negative. And let's kind of mirror the action here. So again, this is a jump of 5. We'll look at them like that. Okay. She's done. She's jumped in her battle group. She's just bringing in the 1 ship. So play now goes back to Pepsi. He looks at his jumping board. I have no more tokens left, so I pass. I must pass. Now you can spend tokens to pass if you want to, but if you don't have tokens, you have to pass. So play goes back to Coke Corporation, and she has another command token, so she's going to spend it, and she's going to spend 2 credits on a fighter wing. So we're going to go to 5 spent credits. So 5 to 6 right now. So if she could pull this off, she's kind of winning. Maybe a minor victory if she doesn't get the comp stat, but we'll see. So the fighter wing only has an auxiliary weapon. They're very fast, very small mass, no shields, so they die kind of easy, but we'll see if the offense is enough. So because they have no mass, I can bring them within 6 anywhere. So I'm just going to measure out 6 here. I'm going to put 6 right there. So now we've got the fighter wing jumped in. Spent my credits. We're good. We go back to player 1. Pass again. Okay, this back to Coke Corporation. She passes. So that is it. We're done with the jump phase at this point. So now we move into the tactical phase, which is the meat and potatoes of this game. So going back to the player with initiative over here, we're going to start. So they're going to first give an order. Now, right now there is 4 orders that you can do. The first is vector, which is a movement order. There's engage, which is a attack order. There is red alert, which is a healing order. And there is jump out, which allows your ships to jump out of the system if the mission requires it as part of the scoring condition, or there's an ability to hop jump, which allows you to take ships from one board that you're playing on and move them to another board. So if you need to move some of your resources somewhere else, or their mission is done or failed or whatever it is, you can get them out of there and move someplace else. So for this right now, I think I'd love to do engage, but engage requires that the enemy ships be within a primary arc of the ship, which there are none, so that's going to be no good. I haven't taken any damage, so I can't heal. I don't feel like jumping out because that defeats the purpose, so I'm going to take the vector order. So the vector order is going to allow me to basically make 2 movements, and this is really great because before you move, you spin your ship any number of degrees. However, if you move more than 90 degrees, in a single turn, in a single movement, you can't shoot your primary weapon anymore, which is a bummer. So vector, by moving twice, I actually get to spin my ship, move, spin it again, and then move. So what I'm going to try and try and get a little cagey here and try and get to the side of these ships. And to do that, I can move over and then spin to get a final shot to be able to fire both of their weapon systems. And I think I'm going to go for the fighters. They're the weakest. So I think that's going to be the easiest target for me. Now, in order to hack this comstat, I need one of my ships in my battle group to be within 3 inches of it when they're done. So I've got a little bubble of area to work with. Looking at this, we're going to spin the ships. We're going to try and get into this area here. So I'm spin these guys like that. The gunships are speed 6, so we're going to move 6 inches to here, measuring from the same spot to same spot. Get them just like that. Looks like I was able to dodge his primary arc, which is great. So then, because I took vector, I can do another move, and all I'm really going to do is I'm just going to spin them the 90 degrees, like so. Now, basically, I've got you know, any choice here of the ships to attack against, and I'm out of the primary firing. However, I'm still in the auxiliary arc of both ships, which is not good, because after a move comes the passive attack step. This is where if there's any non-player characters on the board, they would fire, and anyone within range who has auxiliary weapons can fire at the battle group that just finished their move. Seeing as both of these ships have, the fighter wing and the gunship have auxiliary weapons, they both get to fire on me. So a little bit unfortunate, but one thing to mention before I go, there's a rule where if you don't move your ships at least half of their movement value in a single move, they're kind of like sitting ducks, and the opponent gets rerolls to hit them. So it's incentivizing you to keep moving your ships, keep moving your ships. You don't have to. And sometimes with some of the bigger ships that have, you know, big rail guns and stuff that have, you know, a minimum and a maximum range, sometimes you don't want to move them because it might mess up their firing arc. The downside is now if they can get ships on them and roll to hit, they're basically going to have an easier time hitting them, which is an interesting way to do it. So we're going to go to the passive attack step with these, the fighter wing and the gunship. So the fighter wing's auxiliary weapon shoots 3d6 as its attack. Its range of 6, which measuring from the center, both ships are in. All we need is one, but we got both. That's fine. So we're going to roll 3 dice. Now, what are we looking to hit with? This is where we go back to that chart, and we're looking at the silhouette value of the ship. So the silhouette value of these gunships currently is a 4. So basically, if I can roll a 4 or less, I will hit them. And if I can roll a 1, I will crit. And a crit adds an additional hit to the total number of hits that you've made. This is important because when you get to the bigger ships, hits will do multiple amounts of damages. So you got to remember it's just one more hit. It's not actually more damage. It's because it just gets applied differently. But anyway, so I'm looking for basically a 4 or less. Before I do that, I'm going to do something with my little tactical. I've got these two Pepsi player here. He's got, oh, sorry. This is Coke player we're playing right now. So, you know, I'm not going to spend tactical. We're just going to kind of let this go right now. So, fighter ship is going to attack with his auxiliary, looking for 4 or less, and rolls a 4 and 2 6s. Now, 6s are duds. That's not good. So basically, that's just a miss. There's some other rules. If your ship is kind of damaged, those are really bad for them. But right now, everybody's, you know, all fully repaired and everything. So we basically scored 1 hit. Now the opponent's ship will roll their shield value. So rolling the shield value on a gunship is a 1. So again, lower numbers are better. So it's a 1 or less. So 1 will save. Rolled a 2, so it takes 1 damage. So the entire battle group takes the damage. So each of these ships has a certain amount of health you think of the whole battle group as an entire entity, and as you take damage, you eventually just lose ships as enough damage gets totaled up. So we got 1 damage there. Now the gunship's going to fire. His auxiliary weapon system fires 2 dice. Another dud and a hit. Again, gunship rolls for shields, needing a 1. Does not, so another damage goes through. We got 2 damage there. So 2 damage already on them, which is half of their health because they only have 4 silhouette. So 2 more damage and I lose a gunship already. And it hasn't even gotten a chance to take a shot yet. So you can see where this is where the movement game happens here. All right, so now it's their turn. They're going to fire both their primary and auxiliary weapons, and they're going to target this flyer unit. So both their primary and secondary weapons are range 6. We're within range 6. We're all close, so we can fire all of them. So basically, we'll roll them separately here, but each gunship is going to fire a total of 4 dice each, so we're going to get 8 dice out there. Now, okay, now it's Pepsi player's turn. Pepsi is going to spend one of his tactical points here and is going to use one of the abilities on here, which is powered to the weapon systems. And what this is basically going to do is whatever I roll is going to be considered 1 less than I actually rolled, which is great because these fighters are pretty dodgy. They don't have any shields, but they're a silhouette of 3, so I can only hit them on 1s, 2s, and 3s. But now that I've done power to weapons, I can hit them on 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s. And not only that, but I will also crit on 1s and 2s. So I basically got a 50-50 chance of critting even if I hit them, which is really great. So we're going to roll for the first one here, hitting on basically 4 or less. And we scored 1 hit and 1 crit. So that's again, crits count as an additional hit, so that's 3. So we got 3 hits, and we'll roll for the other gunship, same thing. Oh wow, we got 3 crits and a hit here. So this is going to be 6. This is going to be 7 plus the 3 that we had from the previous attack, so 10 hits. All right, so a little bit of overkill. There's no shields on the fighter, so the fighter is gone. Well, that was quite good for the gunships. All right, so the gunships have completed their firing step. The last step is the ability to interact with a comstat. As long as one of the ships was within 3, which we are with plenty, they hack it. So I'm going to put a little, this is Team Pepsi, so we'll put a little blue marker on here just to indicate that they've hacked that satellite and they are now in control of it. That is the end of the battle group's activation. So now we go on to Coke Corporation. All right. So now it's her turn to decide what she wants to do. Now she knows, because Pepsi doesn't have any more battle groups left, that basically after she activates this ship, this is going to be it. And if she hacks that comstat, she's going to gain control of it. So as long as she can end within 3, she'll basically be able to score this at the end of the round. Fantastic. So she's going to go. She's going to activate here. Again, she has 4 choices of orders. The only one that's really useful is Vector again, because none of them are in her primary arc, so she can't engage. She has no damage to repair. She doesn't want to jump out, so she's just going to take a Vector. So the first thing we're going to do here is let's turn. Let's go. So these are speed 6. I don't really need to go all the way, but I do want to get behind their firing arcs here. So let's do this. I'm going to spend one of her tactical tokens to use an ability called Power to Inertial Dampeners, which basically is going to allow me to fire my primary weapon even if I move more than 90 degrees, which is a really powerful ability. So we're going to vector, we're going to spin. We're going to spin to here. We're then going to move our 6 to get behind them, which is going to be great. We're out of their auxiliary fire. This is awesome. So now we get to do that second move. We're going to spin back 180 to get them within arc. We're just going to check here. We'll move a little bit forward, just staying out of their auxiliary arcs and within 3 inches so that we can hack this at the end. So now after movement, we check for auxiliary arcs for the passive fire step. Both of these ships do not have him in auxiliary arcs, so we get to fire on them now. So we're going to, again, 2 dice on primary, 2 dice on auxiliary, targeting. We'll just, it doesn't matter as long as a ship is in any of the arcs, you can choose it. So, and again, damage is applied to the battle group until 1's removed, so it doesn't really matter here. So firing here, we need, there's silhouette of 4 on a gunship, so we need 4 or less to hit. And we rolled some pretty good dice here. So we got a 4, so that's a single hit, a 2, that's a single hit, and 2 1s, so that's crits. So we got a total of 6 hits off of that. So 6 hits going towards the gunships. The Pepsi player is going to spend one of his command tokens to activate an ability called Power to the Shields. Very similar to Power to the Weapon systems, where you hit easier. This allows your shields to work a little better. So typically the shield value on the gunships is a 1, but because I spent Power to Shields, it's now on a 2. So if I roll any 2s and 1s, it saves. And we got a good amount here, so we got 3. So we're going to take 3 hits back, which is just enough to keep the gunship from dying, because they only have 4 silhouette. So the gunship survives after the attack. They're not going to hack the comm stat. So, sorry, Team Pepsi. Coke takes it over. And now, because no other ships are able to activate, it is the end of the round, and we do end round scoring. We'll say, for who, what CEO owns the most hacked comm stats. It's going to be Coke Corporation, so they get to remove their token and score the card off of it. You multiply the credit by the number of players. In this game, it's a 2-player game, so they would gain 3 credits back. So they're going to go to -2. That being the only objective on this, demo game here, that's going to end the game. Typically, game ends once 2 objectives are scored. You're going to always have 3, but once 2 of the 3 are scored, the game ends at that point. So the game currently ends with Coke having -2 credits and Pepsi having -6. Neither team is in the positive, so they're not going to get a major victory on this. But Team Coke, she at least has more than Team Pepsi, so she gets to keep her job. And unfortunately, Pepsi CEO has been fired. That's a basic setup of A Billion Suns. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come as time comes on. Check it out. Definitely look at the Facebook group. Keep your eyes open. Early 2021, a fantastic game, and I'm really excited to see the final product. And I hope you enjoy. Take care.